me ask you something. Have you ever been half asleep, half awake, and felt like something strange was happening? Like your body was asleep, but your mind was still online. I'm Kelly, and this is That Spiritual Girl Next Door. Today's conversation goes straight into that in between space. I'm talking with Emma from Out of Body Stories on YouTube about spontaneous out of body experiences, learning how to have them intentionally, and what actually changes in your life when you start exploring consciousness instead of just thinking about it. This isn't about escaping reality, it's about understanding it. And fair warning, this one might make you question what you thought was possible. Now on to the show. Emma has a YouTube channel called Out of Body Stories where she shares fascinating stories and interviews exploring other people's out of body adventures. She also documents her own experiences as she attempts to go from spontaneous out of body experiences, which I can't wait to talk about, to mastering intentional journeys beyond the physical. And we share this value in that every story you share is genuine, thought-provoking, and designed to expand your perspective on what's truly possible. And to me, that's it right there, where this whole purpose is just to share with each other that what you're going through, what I'm going through, we're all the same in different ways, and we don't even wrap our heads around what's possible.
Completely true. Completely true. Like at the end of the day, we're all going through this journey called life and we're all trying to make head or tail of it. Like we're all trying to understand what it's all about. And yeah, hopefully the channel on Out of Body Stories just does that, really. It's just like helping people decipher what this thing called out of body experiences or astral projection or lucid dreams, what it's all about and how it connects. Because I have a deep belief that it is rooted in why we're here, what we're doing, and some of them, the other deeper secrets of life itself. So yeah.
And then with you being a mother and having a full-time job, and how do you find time to try to let's take a step back. Because I think some people in my audience might not really understand what out-of-body experiences are and these labels. And they are just words of like astral travel, lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences. And I think when you talk to your guests, the lines blur a little bit about their experiences. But can you give us a little primer on what we're talking about here?
Yeah. So an out of body experience is an experience that a number of people have where you essentially, your consciousness separates from your physical body. I think it's probably, or your awareness of self separates from the physical body. And some people have wild journeys when they go deeper down that kind of rabbit hole. Me personally, I'm still learning to do this. As you say, I talk about spontaneous. I've been having spontaneous experiences or degrees of experience for the last 20 years or so, but I'm trying to have them like consciously. I'm trying to make them happen at will. So I'm trying to understand that process. And so, I interview a lot of different people who have those experiences, all the way from, people that teach this stuff all the way through. And what I'm realizing all the way through to like just a regular Joe, and I just find that it's so interesting and fascinating, and it helps me a bit like your channel. It helps me experience, or actually it's starting to make me realize or go deeper into my spiritual journey, I would say, through this process. And now I am doing, I have a coach, somebody that's been on my channel who's kind of coaching me, but I also now I'm doing a remote viewing course, which is slightly different, but I think it's all connected. All of this stuff's connected. It's all like, different parts of the same fractal or whatever, right? Whatever you want to call it, whatever analogy you want to use. And that's what I find really interesting about it.
So, okay. That's how you started getting interested in doing these interviews. So when did your spontaneous experience happen? And can you give us a little, if you're comfortable sharing some of the things that have happened, and where did you go, and were you in control? I mean, there's so many questions.
No, for sure, for sure. So my interest in this topic started about 20 years ago. So I'm kind of old, but basically I've got an older brother. One of my older brothers, he gave me this book by Robert Monroe called Journeys Out of the Body, and I devoured it. And at best it's just an amazing novel, because the stories thing that Robert Monroe was this exec, like a radio exec in the 70s. And he basically outed himself as a person that has out-of-body experiences. And because he was such a senior exec, kind of just going about his business and talking about what looked like woo woo or spiritual stuff. It was very like two opposite ends of the spectrum. So he not only shared his experiences, but also documented how to go about them. And famously how, he's obviously passed away now, but there is an institute called the Monroe Institute that still lives on in his name and teaches people how to have out of body experiences. So you can go there, you can stay there for a week or whatever and pay them, and they will, share how to do that. There's also some tapes that he developed because he had a radio business. He was trying to, I think, find ways that people could go to sleep better or something like that, and came across this thing and basically experimented on himself, was the story. So in this book, he shares these experiences, he shares how to do it. And I read this book, thought it was a brilliant book, and kind of left it at that. And then one day, maybe a few weeks afterwards, I can't exactly tell you when, but I know exactly when it was. I really love football or soccer or whatever. And it was the World Cup in 2002. And I basically woke up at 4 a.m. I was living in the UK at the time, which is where I'm from. And I woke up to watch an England game, right? And woke up at 4 or 5, watched this game, went back to sleep. And then all of a sudden, realized or could feel my hand going through my bed. And I was like, straight away, I recognized it from, as I don't know, the sensation from what I had read in Robert Monroe's book. And I was like, got really excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm having this experience. And I just got really wildly excited. I really wanted to I started going way 10 steps ahead and thinking, right, I need somebody to scientifically prove this has happened. So tomorrow, because I just assumed it would happen every night, tomorrow I want someone to put something under my bed and I will see what happens. It did not happen that way. I didn't have the next one for about 5 years, but I kept having these experiences spontaneously. So I had another one when I was at my business partner's house, ex-business partner's house in Italy, and staying at her place. And again, feel my hand go through the bed, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going? And each of these times I'd have these experiences every 5 years or so, I don't know, spontaneously, as I mentioned. And I would always have my eyes closed. So I'd always have my eyes closed, but I would have that same sensation as somebody's put on my channel recently. It's like you're merging, you could just, what it is. It's like the molecules of your hand interacting with the molecules of the bed. And yeah, you could just feel all of the sensations that you would imagine of that interaction, right? And that was it. And I kind of left it. So if we go back to when I watched the football, I spoke to my brother about it and I told him, and he shared not only that he had had them, but also diary entries of him experimenting with all of this stuff.
Well, he
and
gave
my
you the
brother,
book.
yeah, exactly. His obviously the book, but also his experiences for me to read. And I'm like, whoa. And I was like, wow. So this is, for me, I was like, this is a real thing. And the other thing that's interesting is that my brother, he's a science geek. He has a PhD. He's super intellectual, a scientist.
Love it.
So for me, it gave me that credibility, extra credibility. This isn't just a woo-woo thing. It's my brother, who I really look up to, talking about this stuff. So anyway, over the years, I would speak to people. I would just obviously I realized that this is something that you kind of keep to yourself, but I'd every so often ask people, have you ever had a out-of-body experience? And every so often, random people I work with or whatever, would say, yeah, I have. And I realized actually I'm not alone. There are other people, but we just can't talk about this stuff. So anyway, I kind of left it like that, had all these random experiences. And then about, I would say 1.5 years, 2 years ago, no, maybe about 1.5 years, because it was September 2024, I believe. Yeah. I don't know, I made this, I would say actually leading up to that, maybe the 2 years prior to that, leading up, I kind of, because I'm an engineer by background, not anymore, but that's my background. And I would say that when I was younger, or around that time, I was very much more in tune with my intuition. and just sort of like feeling things and like all sorts. I've had lots of like, I guess, spiritual experiences, like little random ones, whether it be a download here or, little things. I was very into like writing poetry and my emotions, da, 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 da. And then as I went through my career and, uni and career and all of that, I kind of became much more rational, much more logical and, focused on work. And I just felt like, you know what? I feel like I need to connect back to that. And I think the other trigger was, I think it was on Chris Ramsey's podcast. I remember like reading about the fact that the CIA had declassified all of these files relating to this and understanding that Robert Monroe was a big part of it and that he used to train the military in the US on how to have these experiences or like remote viewing and all of this stuff. So for me, that was another confirmation that this stuff exists or existed or that there was a big emphasis on it. So those two things of me wanting to connect back to my intuition and that side of myself, plus the fact that that confirmation, I just felt, you know what? Let me pick this up. Like I've never explored it. I want to open my eyes. That was my thing. I want to open my eyes. I want to connect to this stuff. There was also all the UAP stuff as well.
Mhm.
There was the telepathy tapes. There were all these
It
things.
all is
And
converging. Yes.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
just felt like, do you know what? Whenever I hear an interview related to any of these topics, there's always like an out of body experience or an astral projection that connects to it. So I was like, that's the proof. If I want to get proof on all of this stuff, I need to have a real out of body experience, and subjectively, even if it's just for myself, to know that the body survives death, or sorry,
Mhm.
consciousness survives death, or
Mhm.
that this is the gateway to all of that stuff. No pun
I
intended. So,
mean,
so that was it. Yeah.
that's cool, and now it's not and now you're kinda hooked in a way because I continue to hear about other people's experiences. You're like, "I want one. I wanna do it." Because I think that's the next question. You can explain what it is, but you've already answered my
Mm,
question about, well, why would you wanna do it? And it's all of
mm,
those things. Even just to connect to who you truly are, who was that child that wrote the poetry
mm,
and had the intuition. That's what this is about. It's not just
yeah.
to get out of body and meet other entities. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and then it also proves, like you said, that consciousness is not local. Consciousness is
It's not local.
non-local.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so if
exactly.
that
That's
is
the
true,
hypothesis
yes,
exactly that I completely believe now. And I wanted to confirm that and I wanted to open my eyes and yeah,
you've
all of
gotta
that.
read the new Dan Brown book, Secret of
Oh,
Secrets, and it's a
oh,
primer on basically everything you just talked about, but they put it into sort of one fictional book about what the
okay.
government's doing. So it's very good. I listened to half of it, I read half of it, but anyway,
Okay.
it's exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
And I think this isn't really a spoiler, but their big thing in there is that if we can prove to humanity that there is life after death, that death is not a
Mm,
thing, then imagine how we could all treat each other differently. We're not going to white knuckle life in the same way
yeah.
where this is mine, you can't have it. You know, just some sort of sometimes I guess the natural way of living for some people can be a little bit more selfish. It's
Yeah.
because you feel
Yeah.
like this is my one life. I'm gonna do it the best I can. But instead, what if
Yeah,
you
for sure.
softened your perspective into that and you realize we're all here together on this journey in this life for a reason and let's love
Mm,
each other through it. I don't know. It could change the world.
agreed. Agreed. 100%. 100%. And just free so many people who are kind of constrained by the barriers that society places on us, programming, all of those things and the fears that we are also bound by. So, yeah, like that was a massive part of it. I ended up having a deeper experience about as soon as I started a course. So, a lot of I think if you look on my channel or you look up out of body experiences, there's a lot of content by a guy called Darius J. Wright.
Mhm.
And I kind of like looked at, okay, where can I do a course? And there were a couple of people, and I came across that one, bought the course, and I think within about 3 weeks, was able to open my eyes. I was able to have a very lucid experience, and yeah, go beyond, just a little bit beyond. But that was when I was like, whoa, okay, this
I
is
can keep doing
wild
it.
and I need to
What are
continue with
some of the
this.
best techniques you can tell people? I guess it's like there's so many, right? But what's worked
Yeah,
the best for you? I mean, or I guess what's the one that you're interested in right now? Because it could change through your journey.
yeah. So one thing I should say is that ever since reading that book 20 odd years ago, I would have sleep paralysis. I would have
Mm,
like what for me I would describe as sleep paralysis. So I would have this like energetic or energy going through my body at certain points. And it would dissipate. Yes, it was a little bit scary at first and all of those things. And then when it dissipated, it's not that I would then exit. I think that bit was always hard.
mhm,
But since kind of like I did the Darius J. Wright thing and I realized like I did that for a bit, but I realized that I needed more dedicated time. So on my channel, there's an interview I've done with who am I saying that? With Graham Nichols, sorry. With
okay.
Graham Nichols. And I do a little bit of coaching with him. And actually, to be honest, I would say that just interviewing people and
Mhm,
understanding their different techniques, I connected the dots on a few things. And there was one guy, Vlad, that I interviewed. And I think after that interview, I realized a couple of things. I realized that they call it the wake back to bed method or wake back to sleep method or whatever, which is what naturally happened the first time it happened, which is like when you go to sleep and you wake up. So some people are like, but I don't have, sleep paralysis. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think there's a lot of words and a lot of techniques that are bandied about. But I think the most common technique, really, it's about getting into kind of a trance.
mhm,
And there are some people that can do that in wake, like waking, being awake, getting to sort of
mhm.
a trance or hypnotic kind of thing, like Graham. That's
Yeah,
his
and Robert
thing.
Monroe, I feel like eventually could just
I
make
could
it
do
happen.
that as well. Yeah.
Mhm,
Probably Tom Campbell, I think he can also do
mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But when you're sleeping and we talk about sleep, it's not really sleep. It's like this in-between state of consciousness, which you either get into as you're going to sleep or as you're waking up, which are the hypnopompic and hypnagogic and hypnopompic states. And what I've realized now is that the key thing that works for me is waking up in the middle of the night. So being halfway through your sleep cycle. And the reason that's important is because when you're halfway through your sleep cycle, at least for me, I'm one of these people that can go to sleep really quickly. Like
Mhm.
I just have this, I don't know, I just have
I
it to
can
a
do that
T. I
too.
can go down, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, your consciousness needs to be aware. You need to be awake.
Uh-huh.
So what you want to be is your mind awake and your body asleep. So if you're halfway through your sleep cycle, you're kind of like, oh, I'm kind of like, I'm good. But your body could easily go back to sleep. Second thing is getting some audio on. And a lot of people talk about binaural beats and da 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 da. And yes, or Robert Monroe's gateway tapes, da
Mhm,
da da. I found for me that it can be anything, but usually something quite relaxing. So for example, Alan Watts, there's some people on YouTube that put like Alan Watts. Alan Watts was like this, I don't know, philosopher, I guess, from the 70s or
mhm.
80s, English guy, British guy, kind of posh, great voice. Sometimes some people put his voice and he lectures and talks about spirituality and stuff. They put his voice to some music. And for
Okay.
me, I find what's great about that is that it doesn't send me to sleep or I don't need to stay awake to listen to it. Like I'm not like listen to an amazing podcast where I'm like, whoa, I need
Mhm,
to listen to every
mhm.
word, but I can just gradually just drift to it. And so the act of having something that primes you in what's the awake state.
Yeah,
So I
because 'cause you're
find that I
halfway awake
oscillate.
listening. Yeah.
Yeah, I oscillate between kind of sleep awake, sleep awake, sleep
Okay.
awake. And then all of a sudden you become aware of this other state.
Liminal state. Yes. Okay,
Exactly,
this all makes
exactly.
you're right. This makes sense in ways I've listened to a lot of this stuff. I like that. Well, so one way that I've kind of gotten into, and I haven't had a true experience that I can remember, but I know that I'm like feeling the vibration when I've watched TV with my husband and
Yeah.
he is like, "Don't fall asleep. We're watching the movie." And,
Right.
for somebody who falls asleep easily, you're like, "Gosh, I'm
Yeah.
trying. I'm trying to stay awake and watch the show with you." And
Yeah.
then that in between state, because I'm trying so hard to stay awake to watch the TV show. My body is definitely falling asleep, and my mind is just like, like trying to climb out of the hole.
grasping, trying to
So
get
I
to the
know
top, right?
exactly. The TV is
Yeah.
doing what you're talking about with trying to intentionally do it with a podcast or
Yeah.
AirPods or something, which that is cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah. And that kind of sends me into like like a lucid dream. No, actually what I've realized, well, at first I would get into lucid dreams because
Okay.
that's what this guy Vlad was talking about. I would get into lucid dreams. And then after a while I realized actually um there's a faint like spiral effect. Like you start to see like just like images. And I was like, "Ooh!" One day I saw it faint, and I was like, "Oh, there's something going on." And then I leaned into that, and then I could see the spirals and stuff, and then that eventually turned into a dream. And I think if you stay awake and you go into this lucid dream, that's when you can eventually get into an out of body. So I'm kind of
Right.
focused on that at the moment. And actually I had my about 3 weeks ago, I had two in one night
Mm.
intentional out of bodies because I eventually got the energy or sleep paralysis state by doing that. I was actually listening to, for some reason, I put the Gateway tapes on and I was listening to it and I got into that and I got the energy. And then the first time I tried to exit, I didn't exit. But the second time I managed to roll out of my body. And as I rolled out of my body and looked back up, because I was expected to see myself, I I saw like what felt like it was like a cave, like a white
Ah.
cave. And I felt almost drunk, like my body felt really lethargic. And it felt really like I was kind of trying to like, I think almost like use, our 3D body, like trying to use my body
Oh, right. And
when
you're not really used to your actual energy
like you're
body.
supposed to apparently just use your consciousness. So
Mhm.
this is what Graham explained to me. And then I was like, oh, I couldn't, I felt really drunk in the state. And then I eventually like woke up. Right.
Okay.
And when I spoke to Graham, I just thought, oh, that's a non thing. And he was like, no, no, no. A lot of people that's their first kind of experience. It's like very drunken and very like, you haven't put your consciousness enough into the state.
Mm.
And then the other thing he said was like, yeah, you need to direct through your consciousness. So what your thoughts will direct you, essentially. So, and the other thing, it was close to a full moon. So apparently, and this is again not proven, but like apparently when it's a full moon, you're
Mm.
more likely to have these types of
Well, that
experiences
makes
as
sense
well.
if there's extra energy, and again, I don't understand it, but it makes sense,
Yeah.
but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the stories? So we've talked about your experiences, but,
Yes.
other people's stories, do you feel like there are a thread that maybe because what you're doing is
Mm.
scientific in a sense. You're collecting the data, and now you get to analyze, okay,
Yeah.
these are some common anecdotal
Common threads.
things
Yeah.
that, like,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
or feel or how I guess the big question is, how is it changing people? Like, what is the common change in people? I think that might be interesting. Again,
That's a
going back to the why
good
do we do this?
that's a good question. I would say, obviously anecdotally and based of the conversations I've had, I feel as though it deepens the spiritual practice or spiritual beliefs, journey. And that in some ways has been my not hesitancy,
Mm.
but just like, I've had a couple of people talk about the dark night of the soul or like kind of going down, that sort of like on that spiritual journey, going like really like didn't realize that that was what they were
I can
going
so
to
relate to what you're about
do
to
and
say, by the
deepen.
way.
You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yes, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa,
Um,
whoa, I'm good, I
I'm
like my
like, what?
life."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that's the big one I'm seeing. Like, actually, most of the people, I think the further you go, the more that they, and obviously not all, because actually I had Sue, a woman called Sue, another British woman on recently, she has definitely picked up other spiritual practices, but they seem to, the whole energy thread and the whole like, the being able to connect to energy or being able to, that's something I'm seeing that people doing things like dowsing or like,
Mhm.
connecting to objects or remote viewing, people seem to be going down that path. But certainly the deepening of spiritual awareness, energy, health, it's like going into these kind of disciplines that are kind of related, yoga practice, breath work, like people really going down one of these rabbit holes and going much deeper. And there's one, actually, I've got a podcast that's going to be coming out soon. That was a really interesting one. It's just that the audio is a bit messed up, so it's taking me longer to get out. But a guy called Matt, who he's got a book actually on all of this stuff, but he also teaches yoga and has been a student of this stuff for the last 30 years, I think. And just the deeper somebody's gone down this path, the more wise I think they seem to be, the more they've connected the dots on a lot of this stuff. And it's definitely helping me understand or at least arrange my thoughts on certain threads in this space more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, those are some of the common ones. So some people even just go deeper down the out of body experience. They wanna like almost like traverse all of the worlds or all of the like
Realms and
realms.
mhm.
Yeah, exactly, and stuff. So you've
Yeah.
got some of those explorer types, and then you've got some of the more spiritual, I would say, types that are kind of going more like, actually, let me explore all of these other threads.
And just being able
Yeah.
to connect and feel your own energy. And that's a lot of what this is, right? If you are
Yes.
able to have an experience in this liminal space with yourself, like who you truly are,
Yeah.
then in the 3D, you can know when your kid spills their milk and you just, that was the last of the gallon. And it's really no big deal. Like
Yeah.
literally don't cry over spilled milk. But
Yeah.
like, that was a stupid
Yes.
example. But in terms of helping people, like I'm with you. So that was, it's always been where I kind of pump the brakes on certain like retreats or things. I'm like, I don't have a whole lot I want to change. And not everybody can say that. And I think
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to be able to say that, but I feel like, so I've had mentors that just explain it like, well, you just can ultimately make the good better, and it becomes an optimization of life and a deeper life where on the surface like things might be great, but like to your day to day becomes more effortless, and you get to really see your creations energetically in
Yes.
the world. So
Yes.
because I'm with you, I don't want a dark night of the soul right now. I'm raising 2 kids. I don't have
100%.
time.
Yeah. 100%. So that's where my completely like aligned like with what you've just said. Like,
Right.
I'm fearful of like, actually, if I go down this rabbit, where am I going? I'm like, which one of these things am I going to go into? What am I going to discover? Have I got the capacity to handle all of this with all the other things that are happening in life in general?
Mhm.
And actually, of course, I would like to, but do I want to deepen this now? Do I want to wait 5, 10 more
So I
years?
had a reading that said, "I just see you with, like, this wheelbarrow," and I'm like, I mean, I do like to garden, but, like, I don't have a they said, "No, it's metaphorical, like, you do the work and then you set it
Mm,
down, and then
mm,
you do some work and you set it down," and I'm like, "How do you know?" 'Cause that's me,
yeah,
there'll be times where I'm, like, really deepening certain practices and things are
yeah,
really connecting, and then other times, I'm just enjoying my 3D life, and I think that's all good.
yeah,
All of it's okay.
yeah. And I think
Mhm,
that's such a good point. Where I'm going to, where what I'm connecting to now is almost as though, as you talk about 3D life, there are lots of layers, right? And
mhm.
your awareness or perception can go to loads of different places. And because we don't really understand time, we don't really understand what it means, but actually time isn't this linear thing. Like obviously 3D, Earth, that's how we perceive it. But
That's
actually
how we met each
there's
other
all
today.
these, yeah,
Yeah.
there's all these other, exactly. There's all these other layers. And it's almost like, when you're going out of body, you are almost like when I talked about Sue mentioned this. You are like you're feeling your awareness of your hand, the molecules in the bed, and it's almost like, yeah, there's a part of you that is aware of that, but in your 3D life, no, you're not. Like your awareness is not there. Your awareness is on your ego, Emma, and da 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 da, and what's going
Mhm.
on. And you're not feeling any of this stuff. You're just like an observer of stuff. But in that, if I go to connect to that, it's like, whoa, it's like going to the molecule of a set of molecules that Emma has in her hand. And it's like, woo, no, you know what I mean? And
And then
actually,
Emma's hand is the bed. The bed is Emma's hand.
mm,
And then you're like, okay, again, I just go back to practicality of like, "Oh, we are all one."
We all,
Oh,
yeah,
how I
exactly.
change my hand can ultimately change the bed. How my
Yes.
energy and how I show up today in my 3D can change
Yes.
my environment because of that
Yeah.
experience you had, which
100%
oh my
agree.
gosh, now I'm like,
Which scares me when it comes to manifesting
uh,
and things like people talking about
yes.
manifesting because I'm like, do you know what? Like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I could manifest, I want to have this like crazy house and this, but what does that mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
just on the 3D layer, but what does it mean on the other layers? Like, do I really want to bring that into play? What does that what other things is that going to affect? And
Oh my
am I
gosh.
ready to, as Emma, to accept that? And is that do you know what I mean? Like
I
on the deeper level,
know what you mean
am I
because
ready?
we think
Or
about
is
the
that
same
just
stuff.
superficial?
So
Yeah.
crazy because it is it and there's nothing wrong with wanting and desires and having that
No.
stuff, but what if it isn't for my highest good? What
Yeah.
if so
Yeah.
understand that's when I hear these stories, I read Robert Monroe's books and having the stories where you go meet the entities or your higher self and then they say, "Actually, this is what your mission is and we need you to hurry it up." Like that's really interesting to me. Wouldn't it be great to have the cheat codes and theoretically some of these out of body experiences they're like, "Don't buy the house, please. We need you in this house so that you can meet this person so that you can do this." And but ultimately, it just has to unfold. So I don't know. I think it's all about not forcing things. It's okay to have desires, but always throw it
Yeah.
out there with if it's for my highest good. I don't know because I'm with
Yeah.
you. I
Totally.
think if we can manifest anything, what if I actually don't want that thing?
Totally. Totally. Because it's just like that's a whole other. It's a whole other set of problems. Like you're not gonna. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're not gonna eradicate all your problems aren't gonna eradicate. Um, yeah, I had this like not to go into too much detail, but I had this like loss earlier in the year, like a monetary loss, and I was like, and in some ways, like I look back and it was a horrible time because I'm like, oh shit, why did
Mhm.
I do that? But in some ways, I'm like, actually, do I want to just sort of, I don't know, let's just call it an investment. Do I want to just get it because somebody at the end of the day, somebody else has lost. Maybe it's just my way of rationalizing it. Somebody else has lost for me to gain. Or do I want to create value and actually have my money come as about of creating value? Like, and I'm not saying that if you manifest a house and it comes randomly, you win a lottery, whatever, that isn't for your highest good or wasn't in
It's
your
still an
plan or
opportunity to
whatever.
create value. Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Mhm.
it's just like, actually, would that have would it gotten my whole self where it needed to go? Or would it got this, or provided, and I'm just talking about myself, right? I'm not, talking about, but would it provided Emma just a superficial way of getting to a particular place? So, and maybe I'm just rationalizing to make myself feel better. But the point is that, yeah, I just kind of like, it isn't, there is definitely a part of me that has always been I want to create certain level of value to obtain something. And I don't know.
It
But
makes
yeah,
total sense. It's an energy exchange is what people talk about the energy exchange.
yeah,
Like when, yeah, you want to create something that then in effect will create energy for someone else and vice versa
yeah.
versus it feels maybe. And then I think this is what you're doing, using your instincts that whatever this house is, it feels vapid right now. And that's for
Mm,
you. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean somebody else that got their big house it's not
yeah,
right for them. You're just using your
yeah.
intuition that that's not. And
Yeah.
I've gotten
And
to a
actually I
place
want to
where,
learn something off the back of it.
yes,
I want to
that's,
transform to get to that point. I don't want it just to be like I get to this house and then Emma hasn't transformed and then all of a sudden I lose a house because I don't know, or just
yep.
I don't know, whatever might happen as a result of that. Just a bit like the lottery, right? See a
Hmm.
lot of people who are not ready to receive that money 5 years later, they've lost it all because they've not, I don't know, like obviously I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I just wonder if there's an element of like, if when you earn it in a different way and you're creating value, there is like I'm an entrepreneur, so like there's things that you go through so much, no? You
Hmm.
go through so much, like so many highs and lows, and the resilience is tested. I don't know, I want to have almost like a hero's journey to get that thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't
And
know.
and
Yeah.
and there okay, so there I get what you're saying. But there's also people that are like, "The hustle culture is wrong. You don't need to work that hard. It can just,
Yeah.
it can just come to
Yeah.
you." But to me, what I'm hearing is that what you do want is the fruits of your labor, like, to that
Yeah.
is beneficial to Emma.
Yeah.
And again, that's why
Because
we're
I
all
think
different.
that that's what I've always found is that deep transformation comes through some of that tough stuff. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go through that. And I'm not saying talking about every single like life experience that some hard shit that people are going through. But from like even with the hustle, I want to create value. I don't want it to just be some superficial hustle. I want to create like whether it's education or it's like I want to do something that is valuable. And I think maybe that's something I've learned from previous things where I have done things. I've built products that are just like, this ain't valuable for anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just for myself or for an investor or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
want to create value. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that isn't the hustle ultimately, because then when you do, it's the creation. Are you pushing the rock uphill, or is it coming
Yeah.
effortlessly? Is this
Yeah.
fun? Do you get to connect with people? Like, so it's beautiful. I love this philosophy because I share, and listen, I used to be like, if I'm not being productive, if I'm not bringing value to my family, then my self-worth would
Mm,
suffer. As long as you know that
mm,
you are worthy and loved no matter what you create,
yeah.
then enjoy the ride. I think
Yeah.
that's the balance.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah. Well, okay, so tell me if you don't wanna go into family life and kids and all that, but do they participate in sort of these ideas at all? Because to me, it's fun to bring them into the fold,
Yeah.
whether it's out
So
of
my
body or not, you know?
So they are 4 years old. So I've got twin
Okay,
boys who are
okay.
4. So they're a bit
You're
too
not
young
quite
at the
there.
moment. But I am very curious because one of them, he's starting to have, I guess, dreams now.
Mhm.
So I'm really curious through all of this stuff, right? As to what do they see? Like I always ask, like, do you have a dream? What was a dream? What happened? Like, did you see anything? And right now they're just like looking at me blankly, like, what's she talking about? Like,
But isn't that
child.
cool that, like, parents of yesteryear were like, "Oh, it's just a dream, don't worry about
It's
it,"
just a
you
dream.
know? Just
Yeah,
move
yeah,
on with
yeah.
life, and we get to validate our kids, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I think it's
100%. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out. And as they get to that, that age of like, yeah, 6, I think it's around 6 years old, right? If anything comes, like they're both very different, my two boys. Like they're both sensitive, but in different ways. They're complete opposites. So I am curious I'm almost like making bets in my head, like, will this one be the one that maybe talks about out of body experiences or seeing XYZ or, you know, one of them actually when one of them, Teo, when he was 2, I think talked about seeing somebody in the
Mm,
room. And I was like, ooh, who did you see? What was it? This person? Da, da, da. Me and my partner kind of mentioned it. But yeah, so on that level, for sure, I am deeply inquisitive, deeply interested in what they do. And I will definitely like you say validate and explore and ask questions and
yeah,
and kind of go
and
down
not
that
shut them
path.
down.
No,
That's
not
what's
shut them down
it's
at
such a
all. Yeah.
fun, I mean, opportunity sounds like a silly word because it's not like I'm being an opportunist on my kids, but, like, the fact that I get to steward this with them, I don't wanna mess it up, this is so exciting. I mean, I'm on the blindfold kick right now, obviously, if you've seen my videos, but you should order a mindfold and
Oh
see if the
yes,
twins
yes,
see if,
yes.
fun,
The
but,
telepathy stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just for fun it works beautifully with my children, and that's just because I get excited to talk about this
Mm,
stuff, and sometimes they're
mm,
just like, it's almost like old hat for them in a way because they're already
mm.
kind of in tune, so they aren't as interested. But since we've started the mindfold, it's something
Yeah.
we can play games together, and they get to show their friends. They've taught one of their
Yes.
friends at a sleepover. I'm like, this is so wild. This is their sleepover.
Oh wow.
My kids are doing a science fair project on it this year. Like,
Oh,
I'm so excited. So
that's
anyway,
super interesting. And they do say this is the thing is that actually, whether it's an, I don't know, extension of our existing senses or these extra perception and sort of intuitive senses, but like as kids, like it's easier to develop and kind of like, So I'd be curious to understand and see how that develops as well with you. How old are your kids?
7 and 10. So they're
Okay.
at a kind of a sweet spot where they're still connected, but they can understand kind of what I'm explaining and what's going on. Also, but don't have to understand enough, because what's really cool is it's so funny they don't question certain things.
Yeah.
And because I'm thinking, I don't know if we can do this. I don't know how to explain it. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. They just are like,
Yeah.
oh, you mean I can see with this thing on? Okay, let me just try. And then we just play around. So anyway, but enough
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Let's get but I just think you would have fun because it's the same
Okay.
thing. They're just going to learn
Okay.
they're more than they're I keep using the word 3D, what we see right now.
Yeah.
Um, so, okay, we talked about kind of your motivation to keep going and all that, but do you integrate the things that you're learning in your entrepreneurial life and
Mm.
um, work stuff, or is that separate right now? It could be separate.
Know what? Trying to think if maybe, subconsciously. I did wonder, I did, I did kind of wonder, and I still am, whether I wanted to kind of pursue developing things in this space, like
Mm,
making it easier for other people. And I think I will in my sort of day to day. That was one of the things I wanted. Like, I think I did mention, right? I wanted to develop that side of me, like your right brain or whatever,
mhm.
but get them both on par with each other rather than like this
Yeah,
imbalance that we all kind of
that's
have.
a great answer right there.
Because
Because
it's just like, yeah, I know that, and maybe in some part, I haven't quite integrated, but I'm definitely trying to build out that awareness. And there is that, even though, like, so I'm doing the out of body stuff, I'm doing the remote viewing stuff, I do want to do some of the energy stuff because I feel like that's maybe just this missing part. Like, there's just, I don't know. Let's see how it develops. But yes,
yeah.
it's a good question. I haven't thought about it consciously, to be honest. But yeah, I think I would like to. And I've always kind of had this feeling, let's say, that later in life, I will move more
Mhm,
towards, I don't know, a space where it's not just, I don't know, I do a lot of tech and a lot of like,
mhm.
educational stuff, but it will move towards like certainly more in this space. So I think, yeah, like, I don't know, watch this space, I would say. I think I would like to. I haven't had the time yet to really explore. I've tried a few things, but not like in great detail. I think it will come though, because I think through doing this, through exploring this stuff, through trying to almost like using myself as the guinea pig and really trying to kind of like get to a point, I think I will eventually come up with something, because that's what I'm a product person. I love to like develop new things. Um,
Well, so
so I think it will.
when you started your channel, were you ever worried that people are gonna think you're crazy, or that the people that you work with in your normal life,
Yeah.
they're gonna discover you? That's kinda what
Yeah,
I mean too, like,
100%.
but
I
now
I I was. And I like, my channel doesn't have my full name on it, right?
right.
But I have said I will flip that switch eventually, and I'll put my full name there. But I did have that because I was like, God, because like with work, like it's like LinkedIn. It's like it's like work and LinkedIn. I had the same feeling where it's like with work, you always like compartmentalize. It's like this thing over
Mhm.
here, and there isn't enough of a bridge towards or in between connecting work Emma and real Emma. So I feel like I have, not to say reputation, but my work reputation.
Oh, sure.
And that's the thing I miss. I really want those two things to connect, because
I
I,
think
I
that'll
feel like
come.
in my entrepreneurial life, that's what
Yeah.
I love about it. Because I feel like I'm me being dictated to, and I'm not like, I'm doing things I want to do. But that's the one thing, even like on LinkedIn, you go on LinkedIn, it's like people say, it's just like nonsense. And like, this is trying to be an Instagram. Not even that Instagram's real, but like people are
Right, right.
trying to like but it just doesn't work, because it's like,
You, like,
you're only talking
applaud
about work.
people for promotions and
I
yeah, that's
know.
great.
It's like,
I know.
it's so weird. It's so weird. Yeah. So I'm
Well, I
hoping
asked
that
that.
bridge will be built.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, I felt the same way, and then the more you talk to people, so you're already doing it, talking to the person that has the experience, right? But then as
Yeah.
you talk to some of your friends, it starts with your friends, and then they're like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
wow." I've had friends be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so fascinated," and I said, "You?" Really?
Yeah.
And then you end up having this really cool conversation and get to know each other on a deeper level. So that's going to happen with your work friends and then your colleagues, and it's going to be the person you probably least expect it. But my last guest, Courtney, she would say that it will integrate as your self-concept integrates, that you are the most comfortable with the reality of it, and you're not looking for the scientific like yeses.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
is, and you're super comfortable with it, and then the rest of your outside would reflect it.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
100%. I think she's right. I think
Mhm.
she's right. And I think there's another layer, which is like, it feels like just in general, whether you want to call it popular culture or you want to, that seems to also be accepting, whether it's, viral series or podcasts like telepathy tapes, like, wow, all of a sudden that's become a talking point, like beyond, like people aren't ridiculing it, or you've got
Yeah.
like, I don't know, scientists doing podcasts looking at all of this stuff. And consciousness is the next frontier, right? It's the
Mhm.
thing that science just hasn't even penetrated, hasn't even scratched the surface on. So I feel like we are going to learn a lot over the, like, just generally science is going to catch up with a lot of this woo-woo stuff. And then all of a sudden it's just going to be normalized. And people like you and me who are like, who are talking about this stuff and interviewing people, is people just were like, oh, well, they were there back before it was a thing. Do you know what I mean? And that gives me confidence that,
Yeah.
yeah, at some
Look,
point the reveal will
I mean,
take
there's a
place.
place and there's a timeline that I think might be real, that the government already has the science, and it's an arms race.
100%. I agree with that. I agree. Like, let's be real. Like, we're stuck in like some, I don't know, we're being like, really, technology's just being blunted at the top. It's suppressed. And like you say, like, if you go to some military, I don't know, underground military base or whatever, they've got all sorts of shit. They've already unlocked a whole load of this stuff. And it's just going to be a case of like, how do we roll this out to the masses in a way that isn't going to create some ontological shock that
Mhm.
just completely collapses society? I agree.
I like
I
that
agree.
idea of that's what's happening, as opposed to they continue to want to control us. And I don't know for what or what. I don't like that mindset of that, because again, if you can create the reality you want, you could tell the story. So if we just say that we're being controlled, then maybe we are. But maybe instead it's just a drip, drip campaign of let's just keep the people not freaking out. And they will
Yeah.
feel their power if they want. We're not stopping them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's right. You have the
Totally.
sovereignty to have your
Totally.
power.
Totally. And I have a funny story. It's not that funny, but so like I said to you, right? I'm a kind of a techie, and maybe about 20, it's about similar time as the out of body story stuff. I did, you know, and it kind of links into all the declassified stuff. Like we
Mhm.
find out 40 years later that, oh shit, actually all this woo woo stuff, yeah, we took it seriously. We funded it for like 40 years or whatever.
Mhm.
But I had this idea. I was just out of uni, and it was all about like, actually, I was trying to create like like I guess that it's like an Apple AirTag that we
Okay.
have now, but back then for like for bike.
RFID.
So you could put it in your bike, exactly. You could put it in your bike and you could track it, da 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 da. And I found
Cool.
this manufacturer in the UK, and I call them up, and they claimed to have a GPS device that was as small as a fly, like a little tiny bottle fly. And back then, the ones that you could find were like
Mhm.
massive. They were like
Yep, they were like a
huge.
handheld,
But
like a thing. Yeah.
yeah, but I found the website of these guys, and I wrote to them, and I think I had a phone call or something. No, I wrote to them, and they were like, "Yeah, we can like send you da 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 da," and it was with my my email address, my my personal email address. I called them up, and I got a fright. The guy was like, "Who are you? Who do you work for? What do you what do you want? Are you we only work with the military?" And I was like, "Oh my God." Like, I got so scared that I didn't even I had all my designs. I just left that because I was like, maybe this is a
Oh,
space I
wow.
do not want to get involved in. So if you
Mm.
imagine they had a GPS device as small as a bloody fly
Mhm.
back then,
Right.
what else did they have, right? And I mean, I'm not claiming that they had X, Y, Z, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I just found something online, just doing research, and they attacked me as if I was like the enemy, just
Well,
because
you
I
know
was
how
like
yeah.
asking for, it was 500 quid, I think, for
Mm.
£500 for samples. So I wanted to buy it. I was like, yeah, I want to buy it. Da, da. And they just went nuts. I just felt like, whoa, have I opened up something that I
Pandora's box
shouldn't
on
have?
something.
Like
Yeah. Wow.
that
You know
much
how
that it put me off.
if somebody in your life that's a liar and you're like, okay, I know you lied about this, this, and this. What don't I know that you lied about?
Yeah,
That feeling. I
exactly.
mean, any government in the world, let's just be honest, that's like can translate
Exactly.
to any government or any technology or anybody that gatekeeps. So what if we know what we know? What about the things we don't know? So
What about the things we don't know?
it's
And
not
what about all these
conspiracy. It's
sightings that people are
yeah.
seeing, like that are UAP?
Hmm.
Like 100%, they're probably all government stuff. It's like we've got probably all these advanced ships. We probably can, SpaceX, talking about going from this side of the continent to the other in
Hmm.
30 minutes. Probably have that technology already. I would not be surprised.
We're
Let's
talking
let's
about
be real.
Chris Ramsey's podcast that you're talking about, Area 52. So he talks to
Yes.
all, there are people that have recovered the non-human remains or have non-human biologics and the crafts, and he's not just one person he's had on his podcast. I mean, it's
Yeah. There's loads
so
and all fairly credible people that are ex-CIA contractors or NASA. Like, I mean, there's just too many people now for us to be like, oof, this is just science fiction. And honestly, like I was even at a point where I was like, oh my God, just thinking about what this could mean if we've got, you know, some of the things, just half of the things that people say we've got, half the technology. Like I almost weeped. I was like, oh my God, like all these things, poverty, all these things that they're day to day, everyday things that we all accept as just because it's just the natural order of things could be wiped out. It's like, oof.
and
Yeah.
you and I hadn't even touched AI on this, but so that's just
We haven't even touched AI. How long AI has been actually here? Like, yeah.
mhm.
How long have we had AI for? Like,
You
come on.
know better than me with what your space you're in, but
Yeah.
it's not been. I mean, it's been a lot longer than we've been using ChatGPT. That's for
Oh,
sure.
100%. 100%. Way
Well,
longer.
so I love that we kind of derailed a little bit from out of body because the point is, though, it's all so connected. Like some of the mind sight groups that they are also going to Mount Shasta and seeing UAPs because they're using that same inner consciousness that they can see. So what you're saying, it's all just,
It's all connected. It's all
you know,
connected. Yeah,
it's
the lady that I
it's all
just spoke
fun.
to, Sue,
Yeah.
I mean, she doused the UAP, like by connecting, like, yeah. And all of a
With a
sudden,
rod, or what does she use? I need to
so
watch the rest of that.
she uses a rod, but she was like, she's at the point now where she doesn't need to use a rod. She can just do it. But, she went out with this group of like UAP enthusiasts and doused one, and it came, and a couple of them saw it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you're like, okay. So how does this work? Like, what's
Right.
going on?
Well, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to your channel. And
Thank
if
you.
they have experiences, you have a link in your bio to submit them to Emma so that you could come onto the show and tell your story, which I love that you have just everyday people that aren't just like the quote, which is funny in our world, like famous out of body experience. Or like the
Yeah.
normal person who like knows about celebrities. Like I have no idea like what's on Instagram with celebrities, but I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's Darius J. Wright.
Yeah.
He's famous.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I want to keep up with you. I think you're doing amazing things. I'm
Yeah.
so
Likewise.
excited.
Likewise, Kelly. And it'd be great to get you on at some point if you're going to continue as
I'm gonna
well,
keep
and have a
figuring out how
chat.
I can have experience. I'm gonna have an experience so we can talk about it. There you go.
Brilliant. Okay. I'm going to hold you to that. I'll hold you to it.
Well, you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on.